Alright, what is up guys? Random Odium here. We're going to be going over the preseason patch. This is patch 6.22, and this patch is so freaking huge. I'm going to try to keep this video as short as I can, but there are so many changes that I know this video is going to be very long. So if you are limited on the amount of time you have, you can always speed up the YouTube video. You can take it up to 1.5 or 2 times speed. I think it's in the lower right hand corner, so you can check that out if you don't have time to watch the entire video. So we've got the first major thing is the assassin updates. We've got 4 major reworks, 6 minor reworks. I'm not going to really go too much into how I think the meta is going to shift because of these reworks. I'm going to actually make a separate video on how I think the meta is going to shift, but I'm going to go over kind of how I feel like the relative power level is for each one of these champions. So Talon, the big thing is they made it so that he can kind of parkour over stuff now with his E. And then they combined his old Q and his E kind of together with his new Q. So that is going to reduce the amount of damage he has because he no longer has the E and the Q, he just has the Q. But they gave him that damage back in his passive. And his passive scales really freaking well. It scales with 2 times bonus attack damage. And it's a bleed effect over 2 seconds. So it scales really well with items. But it's, over time. So it's not like he's going to instantly delete you. I like the fact that his Q does additional damage if you're in melee range, so it gives you some way that you can kind of play around with that. Like if you hop over a wall strategically, get into melee range, you can deal some additional damage if you play correctly. It also gives healing on a kill, and that's really useful for a lot of these assassins because where their weakest is kind of the laning phase, and a lot of that is sustain. So this allows Talon to stay in lane a little bit longer or a little bit easier. And then the rake changes. He's got a longer range but a narrower arc, so it benefits you to try and use your rake before the minion wave spreads out. And the damage, the total damage is actually going to be higher, but it only slows on the return. So they're kind of encouraging people to be able to hit that return shot. Kind of like how Ari, her return shot does more damage. The Sivir's Boomerang does more damage on the return. Things like that. And then also because they gave him a ton more damage in his passive, they reduced the damage on his Shadow Assault, his ultimate. They've got a little bit better scaling. So he scales really freaking well. He snowballs really well. And I think he's actually going to be really, really strong. He's actually probably one of the strongest assassins in this rework. So next up is Katarina. She gets some pretty nice base stat buffs. That's going to allow her to really kind of stay in lane a lot better. Base health is way up. Base health regen is way up. And her health regen per level is up as well. And she's got slight buffs to armor and magic resist. So what they did is they still have her Q, her bouncing blade, but after her Q hits a couple targets, it's going to drop a dagger on the ground. And then she can shunpo to that dagger, and she'll basically do her her old W automatically, where she does a spinning strike. The big thing with her shunpo is she can actually shunpo anywhere she wants, but if she shunpos to a dagger, it reduces the cooldown of shunpo. This is actually really cool because her new W is she can drop a dagger wherever she wants. So she can use her bouncing blades, shunpo to that dagger. Or actually, rather, she'll set up her dagger before she shunpos, so she'll have 2 daggers on the ground. Shunpo to 1 dagger, deal some damage, shunpo out to avoid any damage coming back at her. And then her ultimate is basically unchanged, but it does slightly more damage that scales with ability power and slightly less damage that scales with bonus attack damage. So it's going to do more damage overall. So Katarina is another one of those the Assassin reworks where I really like the changes that were made. It gives her a lot of really interesting counterplay, and I think that she's going to be a much more popular pick, a much easier pick, because she was really kind of a real niche pick for a long time. So I think this will be really good for her. I don't know if she's going to be super overpowered, but she's definitely in a better state now. So LeBlanc, this is one of the ones that I felt kind of missed the mark. I don't playing the new LeBlanc feels completely different than playing the old LeBlanc, in my opinion. Um, so what they did was they changed it so all of her spells can proc a sigil. The sigil takes 1.5 seconds to arm, so you have to hit your opponent with a spell, wait 1.5 seconds, and then hit your opponent with another spell to proc the sigil. So that extends out her burst window, but the damage on that passive is freaking huge. It's 300 damage, base damage at level 18, plus 80% of your ability power. That's a massive amount of damage, and really great scaling too. So it really is all on her passive. For her Q, the mana cost is lower, scales better with ability power, and also it'll if your Q procs a Sigil of Malice, it will chain to other Sigil of Malice. So that allows her to wave clear really easily. So she'll use distortions onto a minion wave. That'll that'll create sigils on every single minion in the minion wave, and then she uses her Q on one of the minions, and the Q will go to every other minion in the minion wave. So this gives her some really great wave clear. But then if she does that, obviously she can't use her spells to kill you. So it's definitely a trade-off. Her W, the ability power ratio is down, and the mana cost is down at lower levels, but it's higher at higher levels. And also she's got a 0.25 second delay before returning her to her original position, and you can no longer do the double distortion, so she can't like delete somebody from a ridiculous distance away anymore. And then finally, the big thing is her updated ultimate. So the way it works is it does two different things. So the first thing it does is that it'll basically create her old mimic, her old passive was, and it will shoot the same spell that she just used. So she can use it to shoot 2 shadow orbs, 2 distortions, 2 chains, and that allows her to proc her sigils a lot easier. The second thing that she can do is that if she mimics her ultimate, it creates a clone of her pretty much anywhere on the map, as I understand it. And you can basically use that to kind of throw enemies off. If you like disappear in a fog of war, then you can use your ultimate to make it look like you appear bot lane when really you're going top lane or something like that. So there's some really cool things you can do with her ultimate, but I don't like the fact that she's not as slippery anymore. Like she can't be like distorting all over the place and popping back to different locations. And she really has to stay in that danger zone. She has to stay in the pocket for that full 1.5 seconds, and that can be really difficult for a squishy assassin to do. So I'm very cautious about this rework. I don't know how well it's going to turn out. Next up, we have Rengar. So Rengar got some interesting base stat changes. So his attack damage growth is down, but his attack speed growth is up. Higher health regen, and now he only has 4 ferocity. So first thing they did was they updated his passive. So whenever he uses an empowered spell, he gains bonus movement speed. And then whenever a unique champion is killed within 1.5 seconds of taking damage from him, he gains permanent attack damage. And it starts off really low. It's only like 1 plus 2% attack damage, and it can scale all the way up to 15 plus 30% attack damage. So this rewards Rengar for going after different enemies. I don't like that he can get it either with a kill or an assist. I would have preferred if it was more like Draven, where he has to get the kill, because Rengar's a hunter. Like, he goes for the kill. He's not there to get an assist, all right? So I think they kind of missed the mark where he can get the trophy if he gets an assist or a kill. I would have preferred if it was just a kill. So we'll see if they change that in the future. His savagery got changed, so instead of it just being kind of like a point and click nuke that he can do to somebody, now it's more of a skill shot, and it goes in 2 waves. The damage is slightly lower, but that's per hit. So he does 2 hits, so it's actually much more damage, but it takes him longer to do that damage. So he deals more damage overall, but his burst window is also longer. It takes him longer to actually do his full combo. Um, so yeah, that's I think that's definitely much healthier. He can still deal a ton of damage, but he's not going to just like jump out of the bush and just 100-0 and 80 carry before they can even react. His W, this is something that's very controversial. So first off, it heals him for 50% of the damage he takes within the last 1.5 seconds. It kind of looks like a gray health like Tom Kench. So he basically kind of has like a mini Echo ult, which is really kind of weird. And then additionally, if he uses it when it empowered, he breaks crowd control. So if like a Rengar jumps on your 80 carry and you try to CC the Rengar can break your crowd control, which is kind of terrifying. And it's especially even more terrifying when you combined it with some of the items you can get as an assassin now that also grant you a spell shield. Or, you know, if your ally has Mikhail's or something like that. So usually the way that you counter assassins is CC, but Rengar's got a built-in way to break your crowd control, so that makes him very dangerous and very unique as far as assassins are concerned. His Bola Strike is also more powerful, so the slow does not decay. It's going to be slightly less. It's going to be 1.75 seconds instead of 2.5 seconds, but it doesn't decay, and it scales up to 90%. So if you have rank 5 Bola, 90% slow for 1.75 seconds, you're not getting away from Rengar. So this kind of this is really interesting. It definitely builds a case that you might want to max your Bola a little bit sooner than you normally would. And then finally, with his Thrill of the Hunt, he is going to become camouflaged, so they're changing the way stealth works. There's going to be camouflage and invisibility, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Camouflage means that if he gets too close to enemies, it's kind of like Evelyn's passive where they will be able to see him. So he can't just like run by your tank and then jump on your 80 carry. Your tank will be able to see him. So that's a slight nerf, but the duration is being increased by a ton. It can go up to 30 seconds. So he can be in his ultimate for 30 seconds. And he gains bonus movement speed, and he also gets a vision of the closest enemy champion. So that'll change. So I definitely recommend checking out his what's this called? His champion spotlight, so you can see how that works exactly. I think this is definitely a lot healthier. So this will allow tanks to kind of try and seek out the Rengar if the Rengar pops his ultimate, so that way, you know, the Rengar can't hop on their 80 carry or something. And it also allows Rengar, if he does things well and he approaches from, you know, clever angles, then he will be able to get off his ultimate, and it'll be a much more rewarding gameplay. So I really like it a lot. I really like Rengar's rework. I think he's going to be really freaking strong. All right, so Fizz. So they also did the same thing with Fizz, where they extended his burst window, but they also increased his damage. So first off, they lowered the cooldown on his Urchin Strike, and they also reduced the mana cost as you level it up. The big thing is with his W. So they made it so that the passive damage is actually slightly more, and then if the target bleeds for at least 2 seconds, he can activate his W and deal a ton of damage. So what you want to do is you want to hit your opponent with a basic attack, wait 2 seconds, and then activate your Seastone Trident, and it deals a ton of damage. And then the other thing they kind of added to that is that if you use Seastone Trident to kill a unit, you can regain mana. So that gets him a little bit more mana sustained in lane. And then also, the passive is also applied if you dash through an enemy with Urchin Strike, or if you hit an enemy with your ultimate. They reduce the mana cost of Playful Trickster, so yeah, that's just a straight up buff. Yeah, if you've played Fizz before, he can burn through mana really fast if he uses Playful Trickster too often. And then the final thing they did was they changed how Chum the Water to work, where he deals more damage the further it travels. And they're trying to, like the standard tactic with Fizz is you queue into somebody and you fire your ult as you're queuing in, and it pretty much, it makes it really easy to hit the ultimate. Now they're kind of trying to reward really good Fizz players who can actually hit the ultimate from really far away, and it deals a ton more damage. It's a larger area of effect, so you can hit more enemies. The slow is more, and also the knockback is greater. So it improves in every way, shape, and form. So this will really distinguish the good Fizz players from the great Fizz players. So I think this is actually a really good rework, and it actually feels more like a major rework than a minor rework. For Kha'Zix, he's really, really strong. Let me just say that just straight up. So he's losing a little bit of damage on his passive, but he's going to be making it up in other ways. So the cooldown for his Q is up by 1 second, which is a significant nerf, but he also gains its 1.4 bonus attack damage instead of 1.2, and the bonus damage to isolated targets is up from 30% to 50%. So when you evolve his Q, you'll no longer deal increased damage. Instead, you'll have the cooldown reduced by 60% if it's on an isolated target. So he's pretty much going to be able to just spam his Q like Rise spams his spells if he's up against an isolated target. So if you find somebody alone, he can just deal massive amounts of damage if he has his evolved Q. With the W, they removed the slow from the base W, but they added it. But you still get it in if you evolve his W. And if you use your evolved W on an isolated target, the slow is up to 80%. So pretty much there's no escape if you land that evolved W on an isolated target. So that kind of encourages people to evolve W a little bit more. They didn't make any changes to his E. And then his R, the invisibility duration is up by 0.25 seconds. And then if you evolve his R, instead of increasing the number of charges you have, he gets this special thing where if he is in a bush, he can gain his invisibility automatically when he leaves the bush. So this allows him to be just really fantastic at ganking, and it makes it so that he's not so dependent upon his leap to land his ganks. But you only do it one time per bush per 10 seconds. So if you go from one bush to another bush, then you can use it multiple times, but you can't use it you can't be hopping in and out of the same bush. So that's kind of will prevent him from doing that if he's being played top lane or something. He can't just camp that bush and keep using his invisibility over and over from the same bush. All right, next up is Akali. So they really changed her, and I don't really like a lot of these changes. So they got rid of her spell vamp. They got rid of her old passive. So now they made it so it's a 2-hit passive where the first auto attack she does heals her. The second auto attack deals bonus damage. And I feel like that just rewards people for building a little bit more tanky with her, because if you're playing a really squishy build on a Kali, you're not going to want to wait to auto attack twice. You're going to want to just dump your entire kit, spam your spells, deal as much damage as possible. So I feel like this encourages her to build more Bruiser, which I think is against what Riot wanted. Her W now allows her to kind of teleport a shorter distance, and there's no way you can see her inside her W. So you can't just drop a pink ward and completely negate Akali's invisibility. So this is really good for her. It allows her to I think it's going to really help her in lane phase, because she can stay in the minion wave and not get forced out of lane, or not get traded on as much, because her laning phase is really weak. And then it will also help her in team fights where she can hop in, assassinate somebody, drop her Twilight Shroud, and then wait for another opportunity to hop onto another high priority target. They increased the cooldown on her Crescent Slash, but they also increased the damage, and also they increased the scaling. And they also made it so that if you kill a unit, it reduces the cooldown by 60%. So this basically gives her a ton more wave clear, and it actually encourages you to fight in the minion wave. Because if you try to all in your opponent in the minion wave, and you kill a minion while you're fighting them, you can use multiple Crescent Slashes and kill them very easily. But the thing that I really don't like is this change to the ultimate, where the cooldown is no longer reduced, so it's a flat 2 seconds, and the damage is just way down. Down 50 at rank 1, and it's down 100 at rank 3, and they halved the ability power ratio. So that's a huge nerf to her damage, and I don't see that damage being made up anywhere else in her kit. So I feel like overall this is a net nerf to Akali. We'll have to see if the changes to her Twilight Shroud make up for the nerfs to her damage. I really don't know. Right, on to Zed. So Zed, pretty minor changes. So they removed the bonus attack damage from his W. They increase the amount of energy he gains if he gets if he lands the same spell on a target. Like if he lands his Q and his Shadow Q on the same target, he gets more energy back. And also the Shadow range has been increased by 200. So definitely like all those changes. His E also is going to be, it's going to have a higher cooldown at lower ranks, but a lower cooldown once you get to like rank 5. So this encourages you to max E. And then the damage is, it's basically the same. It's just slightly tweaked. And then finally, the last thing is that if Zed kills an enemy with his ultimate, he steals, or actually doesn't steal, but he gains some of their attack damage. So he gains 5 attack damage plus 15, 5, 10, or 15% of the target's total attack damage. So if you are playing like an 80 carry that gets ton of attack damage, like say Jhin, Zed's a really fantastic pick. And so the way that this works is that it does not scale, it does not change the amount you get if your opponent that you killed gains items later on. So like if you kill the 80 carry and the 80 carry has 200 AD when you kill him, you only get that portion of the 200 AD. If the 80 carry then goes up to 300 AD, you don't get any more AD. You have to kill him again to get that additional attack damage. So I feel like that's pretty balanced. If anything, I feel like it's a little bit of a nerf, because instead of getting a flat 20% bonus attack damage, he gets 15% of whoever he kills. He only gets it from one person, the person that gives him the most attack damage. So overall, I think it's pretty much a net zero. A little bit buffs in some areas and a little bit nerfs in other areas. I think Zed will be roughly the same as he was before the rework. So for Echo, increases base mana regen. That's good. Helps him in lane. His passive no longer slows enemy champions, which is awesome. That's one of the most annoying things about his kit. And then it looks like the damage is going to be slightly higher at lower levels and much lower at higher levels. So it's down 50 damage at level 18 and it's up 10 damage at level 1. His Time Winder scales better with ability power and is going to have a slight increase in the radius. And then the biggest change is his Chrono Break. So they're changing it so that you have more incentive to build AP on Echo. They're trying to get rid of Tank Echo. So the heal is now going to be 20% of health recently lost, plus flat health equal to 0.6 ability power. So it's going to scale much better the more ability power you have. Furthermore, the heal is going to be increased by 3% for each 1% of maximum health lost in 4 seconds. So his heal will be even bigger. So if he has less total health, that means his heal will be much more. So it basically encourages him to build a lot more AP. So they're trying to push him back more in the assassin direction instead of the tank bruiser direction. And then also the other thing is that if he chrono breaks through the parallel convergence's W, it'll trigger the stun and the shield, which is really cool. It makes it a lot easier for him to land that combo. So yeah, definitely like the echo changes. I think that he'll be a much healthier champion after that. And finally we have Shaco. All right. So now he can't. There's a cooldown on his backstab. I don't know how I feel about that because that was a lot of his damage. The backstab crit damage is 120 to 145. Okay. And then his deceive, mana cost is down, cooldown is down. But the stealth duration is really down to 1.5 seconds at rank 1. That's really low. That's going to make it very hard for him to execute his ganks. But it's 4.5 seconds at rank 5. So that's interesting. So they're nerfing his early game, but strengthening his late game, it looks like. And then it looks like also after he uses his deceive, he deals a bunch more damage, but that scales with ability power. So it looks like they're making AP Shaco more viable. Okay, interesting. And then he can also place a Jack in the Box while stealth. So it looks like they're making it so that worse in the early game, better in the late game, scales better with ability power, and has a little bit more utility. Okay, interesting. Jack in the Box gains bonus health, and they instantly die to turret shots, and they deal less damage to turrets. Okay, that's fine. Two Shiv Poison, slow has been increased at lower levels. It's the same at higher levels. Damage is way down. Scaling is also down, but it deals an additional 3 to 8% of the target's missing health. So they're trying to turn it kind of into an execute. So like you deal a bunch of damage, the target flashes away, and then you can use your E active to basically finish off the target. Okay, that's interesting. And then they're changing his ultimate so that deals less damage to turrets, takes double damage from turrets. The clone can attack wards, and then when it dies, it creates a bunch of Jack in the Boxes. So that's interesting. So it seems like they're pushing Shaco to be more AP. It seems like they've made a lot of buffs to AP Shaco, but they took away a ton of his damage. So I think overall this is definitely a net nerf. I'll have to see how much this really affects him on the live servers. So overall, I would say that Akali and Shaco probably got the worst of the rework. I think they're definitely, and probably LeBlanc too. Akali, Shaco, LeBlanc definitely got the short end of the stick. And Talon, Rengar, Katarina, and Kha'Zix probably got the best deals out of these reworks. And then Zed, Echo, Fizz, yeah, I think that's the other only ones left. Yeah, Zed, Echo, Fizz. They're good. They're good reworks. But they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna be like super overpowered or super underpowered. So yeah, that's the end of the assassins. All right, stealth mechanics. I already kind of talked a little bit about this. So camouflage and invisibility. Camouflage means that it's basically like Evelyn's passive. So you can be revealed by proximity, turrets, or control wards, which are the new vision wards, by the way. So that, yeah, includes Evelyn's passive, Rengar's Thrill of the Hunt, and also Twitch's Q. So they changed Twitch's Q so that now he can be spotted. And then invisibility is supposed to be more short duration, so only like a second or two, and it is only revealed by turrets. So yeah, that includes Akali's W, Kha'Zix's R, LeBlanc's R, Shaco's Q, Talon's R, etc., etc., etc. And then finally, they have this thing called Shimmer, where if a target is stealth and you deal AoE damage to the target, so Brand's W or Ezreal's Q, something like that, it'll cause the air around them to shimmer, momentarily revealing them, but they're not going to be targetable. So at least you can kind of track the movements of invisible targets to kind of give it a little bit of counterplay. Control wards are the new vision wards. That's all you really need to know about that. Yeah, and they disable wards within an area. And then you're going to get more experience from killing wards, but you're not going to get any lifesteal from killing wards. Next up, they changed armor penetration to lethality. So the way that the lethality works is whatever. So if you have like 10 lethality, you get 40% of that as flat armor penetration up front. So you get 4 armor penetration at level 1. And then the other 6 armor penetration scales with your opponent's level up to the full value at level 18. So this allows assassins to scale a little bit better into the late game and not be so dependent upon being snowbally. So you'll see a lot of the assassin items, if they had like armor penetration 10, they'll now have lethality 15. So they get slightly more armor penetration at higher levels, but at lower levels they're not as strong. So like straight out of the gate, if you buy the item, you're going to get less armor penetration, but it scales better into the late game. So obviously they updated Precision, the Cunning Mastery, and they also updated the armor penetration runes and the hybrid penetration runes. And they pretty much give you almost identical to what they did before the change. So Serrated Dirk now does 25 attack damage, gives 15 lethality. Yeah, it says it breaks even at level 8. So before level 8, it's worse. After level 8, it's better. And gives you 20 movement speed while out of combat, but no longer gives you that plus 15 bonus damage on hit after killing a unit. They've also given you this new item called Poacher's Dirk, which is kind of a throwback to the old jungle item. And what this does is it's pretty cheap. It's a longsword plus 400 gold. And if you poach 3 unique jungle camps from the enemy jungle, it transforms into a serrated dirk. So it's kind of like the cull for assassins. So it's kind of cool. It kind of allows you to save some gold if you're good at counter jungling. All right, Edge of Night. This is a huge item. This is really, I think this item's gonna be really overpowered. So 3,100 gold gives you 60 attack damage, 35 magic resist, 15 lethality, 20 movement speed out of combat. And you can, if you, the active is you channel for 1.5 seconds, and then you get a spell shield that lasts for 10 seconds and only blocks one spell. And you can channel while moving. So this is going to be fantastic on champions like Rengar. So you can have Rengar pops his ultimate, he can channel Edge of Night, jumps on the target, has a spell shield, deals his combo, you can't CC him because he's got the spell shield. And then if you CC him a second time, he can use his Empowered W to break the CC for a second time as well. So I think this item is going to be really overpowered on Rengar, and it'll probably be very powerful on other assassins as well. All right, for Duskblade, attack damage is down. It gives you 20, just flat 20 movement speed out of combat rather than plus 5% movement speed. Gives 15 lethality instead of 10 flat armor penetration. And then instead of giving that, basically that mini Z ult proc that it has, instead what it does is after being unseen for at least 1 second, your next basic attack will deal 50 damage plus 2 per point of lethality you have, and it's true damage on hit. So this works for stealth champions. It also works for non-stealth champions. So if you buy this on the non-stealth champion, from the moment that your enemy sees you, you have 4 seconds to try and to attack them, to proc Duskblade. If you have a stealth champion, you can proc it multiple times. I don't think there's any cooldown associated with that item, so it's going to be really good on champions like Kha'Zix. I could see it be really good on Vayne, possibly. Akali. Actually, no, Akali won't work very well because she scales off of AP. But yeah, anybody who can has like multiple invisibilities, or ways to get invisibility for at least a second, will benefit really well from Duskblade now. All right, Yomu's. So cost is down. Gives 20 lethality instead of 20 armor penetration. So they didn't increase the lethality to like 30. So it's a slight nerf as far as the amount of armor penetration you get. You get 20 movement speed while out of combat. And then the active now gives you 20% movement speed and ignoring unit collision, but you don't gain the bonus attack speed. So it's basically used as an engage tool. It's no longer as good for like 80 carries who just want to get the bonus attack speed, but it still can be used for 80 carries who want to run away, essentially. So it's good for that at least. And then finally we've got Maw. Total cost is unchanged. Does not give armor penetration anymore or lethality. Instead, it gives cooldown reduction. And then when your lifeline triggers, you gain 20 attack damage in addition to the previous 10% spell vamp and 10% lifesteal until out of combat. So they're making it less of a assassin item and more of a like a fighter or maybe a diver item. So those are the item changes. All right, so moving on to the plants. So there's going to be 3 different types of plants. There's going to be the blast cones, which are the ones in red here. There's the scryer orbs, I think they're called, or scryer's bloom. Those are the blue ones here. And then there's the honey fruit, which is the green ones. And they're going to spawn kind of at random times, but they're going to be in certain locations. So the blast cones are basically like a Ziggs satchel charge. The scryer blooms are like a cone of vision, kind of similar to like an Ash Hawk shot, but different, a little bit different. And then the honey fruit gives you a bunch of health and mana, but it slows you. So I really like the honey fruit. I think that's really cool, and you can actually use it to kind of screw your opponents. Like if you're contesting dragon, and like let's say like the 80 carry is like hugging the wall, if you pop the honey fruit, you'll automatically slow their 80 carry. So then you can like hop on him and chain CC. And I've actually done that before in a couple games, and it's really hilarious to watch because you think the honey fruit's going to help you, and it winds up getting you killed. The Scryer's blooms are going to be really contested because they provide a huge amount of vision, and you can actually like depending on where you attack it from, you can change where the vision you get. So it's going to be really interesting to see how people play around that, and it's going to make counter jungling a lot easier, I think. I don't really like the blast cones. I feel like they're kind of gimmicky. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those turn out. All right, Smite. So Smite now, if you ever use Smite, it heals you no matter what. You no longer gain those different buffs depending on what jungle monster you smite. Now, no matter what, you get healed. So even if you smite like Gromp or Blue Buff, you'll still get healed. The heal is 100 plus 10% of your maximum health, so that favors tank champions. So 10% of your maximum health, that can be a lot if you've got 3,000 or 4,000 health. So it scales better later into the game, and also scales better with tank junglers. The cooldown is up to 90 seconds, and it doesn't start charging until 1:40 seconds instead of 1:25. They made Hunter Machete better, so more on-hit damage, more lifesteal, which is good because Talisman was definitely outperforming Machete in a lot of ways. And then they're changing how monsters spawn, and the golden experience for monsters is also going to be increased. So what this is designed to do is it's designed to discourage power farming. It's designed to get junglers out ganking more often. So the small camp respawn is going from 100 seconds to 150 seconds, but you're going to get more gold and more experience for each jungle camp you kill. So counter jungling is going to be much more effective. If you steal a camp, you're denying a huge amount of gold and experience for 150 seconds from the enemy jungler. And also it's going to give you more time to impact the lane. So I think this is going to be really useful for junglers who, one of the hardest things about jungling is struggling balancing farming with ganking, because if you don't keep up in your farm, you'll fall behind in levels and then your ganks will not be effective. So I like these changes. I think it's going to make jungle a lot more dynamic and a lot less boring. Yeah, so I like these changes a lot. All right, so camp updates. So red and blue buff, they no longer have the small little guys. It's just the buff, and I think they do slightly more damage. Oh yeah, and then also blue sentinel has negative magic resist. Red bramble back has negative armor. So AD champions can clear red much quicker. AP champions can clear blue much quicker. The raptors, there's going to be 2 more raptors. The Crimson Raptor health cut in half, damage cut by roughly 2/3, but the Little Raptor's health increased by roughly half. So this is going to be a really hard camp to clear if you don't have AoE, but it's going to be really rewarding for the jungle champions that do have AoE clear. So this might be a camp that you can't clear in your first clear if you don't have AoE. The Krugs now will create smaller Krugs. So when you kill the Krug, it'll spawn 2 more smaller Krugs, and then they'll spawn 2 more smaller Krugs, which is, it takes a long time to clear the Krugs now, but they give you a ton more gold and experience. Additionally, the Krugs spawn 15 seconds after the other camps, so you can't start Krugs anymore, and your bot lane can't start Krugs to get like a jungle camp advantage over their lane opponents early. So this is designed to prevent the side lanes from stealing jungle camps at level 1. It also makes it so you can't start Krugs or Gromp level 1. Yeah, so you see Gromp spawns 15 seconds after the other camps, so you're mostly going to be starting red or blue buff and smiting that buff. And then finally we got the Merc Wolves. They didn't change at all. Rift Herald, spawn time's at 10 minutes, and his attack damage is down, so it's going to be a little bit easier to secure it, but you only have a 10-minute window to secure the buff. I feel like that they need to make more changes. Rift Herald is pretty much never taken, so I'd like to see them make some more changes to Rift Herald as the preseason progresses and really get those tested before the season starts. I don't want them to be making changes to Rift Herald once the season starts. I want to try and get them to iron out those changes before LCS starts back up again. Elder Dragon, this is a huge change. So Elder Dragon no longer deals more damage and takes less damage based on how many elemental drakes you have. So you're no longer punished for having like 4 or 5 drakes when you try to take Elder Dragon. So this makes it a much higher incentive to go for Elder Dragon if you have a lot of dragons. And then also the buff, the aspect of the dragon, has been increased by 30 seconds to 150 seconds. So I think they're trying to make this so the trading like Baron for Elder Drake is a much better trade, because right now it feels like Baron is always the better choice. This is a really interesting change to the minions. So melee minions are going to get a lot more health over time as the game progresses, but they're no longer going to gain attack damage as the game progresses. So they're going to still do the same amount of damage at level 1 as they do at like level 18, but they're going to have like a ton more health. So they're going to basically be a lot tankier. And then range minions, their health growth is being decreased, but they're going to have increased damage. So this is going to affect the game in a lot of ways. It's going to be a lot harder to like instantly clear a wave once you have enough ability power or attack damage. It's going to be a lot harder to clear those melee minions immediately. So that's going to make sieging a lot easier into the later game. The other major change that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, which is really freaking important, is that this allows you to set up those slow pushing lanes that build up those massive waves a lot easier. Because what you do is you just go to the lane, you kill the ranged minions, you leave the melees up, and your minion wave will stack up, and it will take forever to kill those melee minions because they have a lot more health. So if you need more explanation on how that works, you can like leave a comment, and I'll try to explain it better to you guys. But this is going to be a really interesting tactic at high levels of play, especially like LCS levels of play. All right, turrets. So they used to make it so inhibitor and nexus turrets shoot laser beams instead of bullets, and now they're making it so that that those turrets are gonna deal. They're gonna fire bullets like all the other turrets. Okay, interesting. And they now deal a fixed percent of a minion's max health. Oh, perfect. So this makes it a lot easier for you to guess like how many tower shots a minion can take before it's gonna die. Okay, that's fantastic. I actually like that change. Alright, so minimap icons, smaller icons for the minor camps, and yeah, so they're basically trying to reduce the clutter on the minimap. Okay, that's fine. Alright, Ages of the Legion. So they're giving Aegis of the Legion more magic resist, and they're also giving it armor. It'll no longer give you health, and it no longer gives you the allied shield. To make up for this, though, if you get Locket, the shield is actually going to be much higher for the active. It's going to be actually double in strength. And then also, yeah, it gives a lot more resistances and a lot bigger shield to make it more impactful. So I definitely like these changes. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of these support items, you really can't feel the effect of them as much, especially if it's like a passive. You really can't feel that passive plus 10 magic resist. But that active shield, it feels like you're actually, making a difference. All right, and the updated Banner of Command, so it's like a tank item now. I don't really see the reason why they did this. You already had ZZ Rot Portal, which was a tank item, and I kind of liked having a way for non-tank support to kind of like empower a minion wave, like Janna or Soraka. So I don't really know if I like this change to Banner of Command, but I mean I'm still gonna buy it. I still think Banner of Command is a fantastic item that's really underutilized. All right, so now they're gonna be talking about Enchanter itemization. So the healing and shielding power is down on Forbidden Idol, but the cost is also down. Chalice of Harmony, the cost is down, and the base mana regen is the same as the base health regen. So it's no longer going to be like you get one or the other, now you get both. So they're basically, it's just a straight up buff to Chalice of Harmony. Redemption. This new item is really interesting. 2100 gold gives you a bunch of mana regen and health regen, cooldown reduction, plus 10 heal and shield power, and then the active is within 550 range. After 2.5 seconds, call down a beam of light to heal allies, and also burn enemy champions for 10% of their maximum health as true damage, and deal 250 true damage to minions. So you get a heal that scales with the target's level. So it's at level 18, that's 360 plus 130, so that's 490 health healing. And then you also deal 10% of your enemy champion's maximum health as true damage, and 250 true damage to enemy minions. I think I misspoke. I think you can actually target anywhere on the map, but it has an area range of 550. And then on top of that, you can also use it while you're dead. This item is really freaking overpowered, and I think it's kind of broken. I see no reason why like every single support that can heal or shield would not be getting this item. It's really powerful for only 2100 gold. All right, Ardent Sensor looks like it's going to cost slightly less gold. And then the heals and shield on allied champions give you now 20% attack speed, 20 magic damage on hit, and cause your basic attacks to restore 20 health. So instead of doing 15 attack speed and 30 magic damage on hit, you now get 20% attack speed, 20 magic damage on hit, and restore 20 health. So, yeah, I think it's pretty much equal. So those are they're trying to go away from on-hit damage. All right, Mikhail's costs less. Has the same thing as Chalice of Harmony, where you gain both mana and health regen. And then cleanses all CC. And then instead of healing, them a little bit. It's also going to give them 40% movement speed, and also gives you slow immunity for 2 seconds. So you break the CC, you get slow immunity for 2 seconds, and you gain 40% move speed. That's really strong. That's actually really, really, really strong. So I think the Mikhail's is going to be really useful against enemy team comps that have a lot of CC. And then finally for Athenes, all they change is it's cheaper, and you get both mana and health regen by the same amount. All right, almost done. Almost done, I think. So Knight's Vow. Now we're down to the Warden's itemization. This item feels really freaking broken too. So 2100 gold gets you 400 health, 20 armor, 100% base health regeneration, and then you designate a partner. And if your partner is nearby you, you gain 15% movement speed when moving towards them, and additional 40 armor. And then on top of that, if your partner is nearby, you heal for 10% or for 12% of the damage your partner deals to champions, and redirect 12% of the damage that your partner takes from champions to you as true damage. And then the healing and damage reduction are reduced if you are a ranged champion that buys Knight's Vow. So this is designed to be a melee support item. And it says the champions can only be linked by one Knight's Vow at a time. So some people were asking, and I haven't tested this out, but they're asking, like, if you have 2 tanks on a team, could one tank designate the other tank as his partner, and the second tank designate the first tank as his partner, and they both gain the effects? I'm not sure if you can do that. But if you can, that's really freaking broken. If you have like a top laner and a jungler who are both a tank, and they kind of itemize together and they both get Knight's Vow, they can become kind of an unstoppable duo in top lane, especially if they already have some built-in sustain into their kit, like a Trundle or something like that. So yeah, this is a fantastic item that I'm going to buy on pretty much every tank support, and maybe even like some tank junglers or tank top laners in the later parts of the game. And then now Face of the Mountain, it activates the shield on you if you cast it on allies. So you get double the shield, so 1 shield on you, 1 shield on your ally, or it shields the nearest low health ally if you cast it on yourself. I definitely like that. Makes Face of the Mountain much better. And then bringing down costs for a lot of these other items. So pretty minor, so cost down on Zeke's, cost down on all the eyes, Talisman of the Ascension, and then Frozen Heart. Okay, so Frozen Heart got reduced by 100 gold as well. Okay, this is the sneaky rework that they added into this patch. This is Alistar. So they made it so that his heal, which was on his E, is now his passive. So the way it works is that anytime he applies hard crowd control to enemy champions, or when nearby enemy units die, he gains a triumphant stack. Once he reaches 7 triumphant stacks, he heals himself and everyone around him. Actually, no, it just heals him and the nearest allied champion. And it heals the nearest allied champion for twice the amount. So, alright, and the Triumphant Roar instantly procs whenever an epic monster or enemy champion dies. So that's interesting. Basically took an ability that was kind of not very useful, and they just put it on his passive instead. Q Pulverize no longer stuns the target for 0.5 seconds after the knockup ends, so it's going to make it harder for you to land your Pulverize Headbutt combo, where you pulverize and then run around them and then headbutt them like back into your tower or something like that. His new E is Trample. It deals quite a bit of damage over 5 seconds, and every trample pulse that hits at least one enemy champion grants Alistar 1 trample stack, and it's capped at 5. And if you get 5 trample stacks, then that means that the next basic attack against a champion deals more damage and also stuns them for 1 second. So he's got CC on every single one of his abilities except for his ultimate. So he's got, his knockup on his Q. He's got the displacement ability on his W. He's got a stun on his E. And then, of course, finally his Unbreakable Will, his ultimate with the damage reduction. They removed the 60 to 95 attack damage that he gains while active. So okay, yeah, no big loss. So Alistar seems like he's pretty freaking strong, but probably in maybe a little bit of a healthier state now. Okay, Twitch. So Twitch's Q, his ambush, is now camouflage. It's not invisibility, so he can be spotted if he gets too close to enemy champions. However, they're making it so that the stealth duration is way, way longer, so he can reposition them much better. So instead of it being 4 to 8 seconds, it's now 10 to 14 seconds. So that's pretty cool. Out of combat movement speed is down, but he gains an additional 30% movement speed when he's near an enemy champion that can't see him. So that's going to be, while he's ambushed, he can gain up to 40% movement speed. And then his W Venom cast now is going to be like a cloud. And instead of gaining 2 Venom stacks on hit, he gains 1 Venom stack if you hit them, and then an additional 1 Venom stack per second. So you can gain up to 4 Venom stacks just from the Venom cask. So this is going to be make Twitch more of a better team fighter. So if you land a CC, you drop the cask, and then you can guarantee that you gain 3 or 4 Venom stacks on a target. And then, of course, the most overpowered change to Twitch is they changed his ultimate name. So it's no longer, it's no longer Rat-a-tat-tat. It's now back to Spray and Pray, which was the original, and people were petitioning really hard for this. I'm really glad that they changed it back, because Spray and Pray, it makes so much more sense as far as his kit is concerned. Rat-a-tat-tat only works if you've got the Kingpin, the Gangster Twitch skin. So I definitely like the fact that they changed it back to Spray and Pray. They're also going to give him his splash updates, which all look really cool. I think they did a really good job with all of those. All right, moving on to Ivern. So Ivern definitely, I think he's underpowered, but I think a lot of people just don't know how to play him. So his Q, his root, the cooldown is down. So it's going to be down to 10 seconds at max rank, and he can reactivate root collar to take the dash portion of the ability in addition to... so it's basically a double. So if you hit your Q and then you hit Q again, you'll automatically go to the target instead of having to click on them as an auto attack. And then Daisy gains slightly more health at higher levels, and she's supposed to have better pathing, better commands, because she was doing some really messed up stuff when she first came out. So that's good. All right, and then Kled, the remount time is down. That's fantastic. That's exactly what he needs. However, they're also reducing the damage on his W, which I don't really understand because he's not very powerful. I really wish that they would make his W something that you can actually activate instead of something that just automatically happens, because it makes it really easy to play around Kled. All right, items. So Abyssal Scepter, instead of reducing magic resist from nearby enemies, it instead causes nearby enemies to take 10% more magic damage. So this is going to make this item better in the late game, but worse in the early game. So you're not going to always want to rush it, if you're in an AP versus AP matchup. Hextech Revolver, they reduce the damage. Makes sense. It definitely packed a huge punch. And then Hextech Protobelt, they reduced the damage as well, and also the scaling, which I agree with, because it dealt so much damage, and a lot of times there was no reason to... There's only very specific instances where you would go for the... the other one? The GLP. Because Hextech Protobelt, it seemed like the damage was almost identical. So I'm glad that they're reducing the damage, and they're making Hextech Protobelt more about the dash rather than the damage. All right, now moving on to the onto the masteries. So tier 2, double-edged sword moved to tier 4, and then they added something called Fresh Blood. Your first basic attack against a champion deals an additional 10 damage with a 9-second cooldown. I like this. So they're making it so that the lower tiers are more for early game, and the higher tiers are more for late game. And then, so it looks like they increased the damage dealt and taken for double-edged swords. It went from 3 to 5% increased damage, and 1.5% to 2.5% for increased damage taken. Bounty Hunter gives a higher bonus now. And then they added another one called Battle Trance, which says gain up to 5% increased damage over 5 seconds while in combat. So if you can stay in combat for a long period of time, you gain a lot more damage. This might be useful against like tanks and junk. Like if you're a tank or a juggernaut, you might want to get this. And they removed Oppressor. Okay. And then finally at the Keystone level, they updated Fervor of Battle. So instead of giving on hit damage, it now gives you flat attack damage. So this definitely hurt a lot of champions that were using Fervor, I think. Especially like champions that don't really benefit that much from AP or AD like Kale and Teemo. I think in general it's a nerf. The one champion that I think is going to actually really benefit from this change is Lucian. Because Lucian can stack up this Fervor really fast, and he benefits a ton from attack damage, more so than on hit. So I think Lucian will be much better with this new Fervor of Battle, but a lot of the other champions who normally take Fervor of Battle are going to be worse. All right, in Cunning, Tier 4, they added something called Greenfather's Gift. So stepping into a brush causes your next damage ability attack to deal an extra 3% of your target's current health as bonus magic damage. So this is going to be great for a lot of the assassin junglers, Evelynn, Nidalee, Rengar, Kha'Zix. All of those guys are going to do really, they're going to want to take this. And then, they already talked about Precision, how they changed it from armor penetration to lethality. All right, and then in the Resolve tree, at the Tier 2 level, there's one called Siege Master, where you gain 8 armor and magic resist when near an allied turret. So this is for people who struggle in laning phase. This is going to be a very useful mastery for them. So a lot of the top lane tanks that maybe struggle against like certain range matchups might benefit from this. Tier 4, you get a mastery called Fearless, so gain 10% bonus armor and magic resist when damaged by an enemy champion for 2 seconds. So this is going to be fantastic if you're playing initiators. So divers, any tank that can initiate, Amumu, Zac, Sejuani, etc., etc., etc. This is going to be a really fantastic mastery in the Resolve tree. And then finally, at the Keystone tier, they removed Strength of the Ages, and they added Courage of the Colossus. So I already made a video on Courage of the Colossus. They did slightly nerf it from where it was on the PvE. So it used to have a base amount and also scale off of 7% of your maximum health. Now it's just scaling off of maximum health. So Courage of the Colossus is not going to be as good on champions that don't stack health. So you won't be able to abuse it as much on like fighters like Yasuo and Riven. It's really going to be designed more for tanks. But I'm still going to try it out on a lot of those divers and fighters and see how good it is. And then also, this is great. They actually defined what CC will actually proc it. So if you want more information on Courage of the Colossus, check out my video that I posted to my channel on who can use Courage of the Colossus and who's it actually good on. League Client is coming very soon. We're going to get replays. Talking about custom games. All right, sweet. So replays, I can't wait for replays. I've been waiting so long for that. Scoreboard ordering. So, they reorder the scoreboard so you don't have to. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, sweet. Awesome. I love this. So it's automatically reorder you in by role. I always do that at the start of every single game, so that's a nice little quality of life feature. Rank season, of course, Victorious Maokai if you're gold or above. And then they're also going to be they're going to have the 2 queues now. They're going to have the solo queue, and they're going to have the flex queue, I think is what they're calling it. And you can gain ranked rewards in each one. And they said they're going to be providing bonuses or benefits if you're a solo player and you play in the flex queue to try and encourage solo players to go into flex queue. Bunch of bug fixes, and then we have a bunch of skins. which are pretty cool. I like these Worldbreaker skins, kind of the Aztec gods, and then Karthus Lightbane is pretty freaking awesome. And then the 2 chromos coming out is Battle Regalia Poppy and Dragon Slayer Braum. So, oh my god, I've been doing this for over an hour. I apologize for the long video, but there's just so much to talk about. I am going to post another video on how I think the meta is going to shift in Season 7 based on these changes, so stay tuned for that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It's really hard to talk for an hour straight. If you like the content on the channel, please subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave one below. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on all of the changes that are happening in Season 7. I hope you all have a fantastic day. This is Randomonium signing off.